Build-A-Graphic training is broken into 3 parts. 1 is quick start, number 2 is tips and tricks, and number 3 is geeky stuff. When it comes to getting started, there's 2 things you want to know. First of all, you could, from scratch, build your graphics using the application as it works. You also have access to thousands of pre-built graphics that you can copy and paste your content into or add your content as needed. Both of these approaches help you create amazing professional infographics very quickly. When you build your graphics, you're going to start with content that you already have. You're going to select a text box, and from the Build-A-Graphic menu or ribbon, you're going to choose chunk text if necessary. When I say chunk text, what this feature allows me to do is to chunk information by sentence, bullet, or paragraph. In this instance, I'm going to chunk it by paragraph. Then what Build-A-Graphic does is it automatically analyzes the keywords and phrases on your slide. So if I go up to Insert Graphic and I click on it, I have a drop down, and a lot of those keywords and phrases that I see on my slide are now represented in that drop down. So you'd simply hover over one of those keywords and phrases, and Build-A-Graphic gives you the many different ways of visually representing that content. You would simply choose by clicking on one of those images, and it would automatically insert it into your graphic. If you notice, the text over here is redundant. We have now replaced or augmented this text with a visual. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that text because I consider it redundant, and that is your prerogative. The next thing I want to do is make sure that the text boxes are complementary to any visual elements. So I'm going to go to my Home tab, and I'm going to decrease the font either by changing the font size here or by choosing decrease font size or increase font size. So I'm going to decrease the font size. I am now going to reposition the text boxes so that they are near or co-located the appropriate step. So Tier 1 is near Step 1, Tier 2 is near Step 2, and last but not least, Tier 3 is near Step 3. Now the next thing I want to do is populate those steps. So it reads Tier 1 issues are resolved automatically via the AI system. I'm going to go to my Build-A-Graphic tab, go to Insert Graphic, and I'm going to look for some of those keywords, such as automatically. So I find the image that I want, and I click on it and populate it. Now, something that's very, very helpful is that Build-A-Graphic uses vector-based graphics, which means that I can modify these graphics in any way that I want. So if they don't meet my brand standards, I can quickly change colors. Or perhaps I want this graphic to look like a blueprint. So I would give it a blue outline, and I would fill it with a white color, and it looks like a blueprint. I can modify these graphics any way I want because they're vector-based. It also means that I can scale them up or down without losing image quality, and the file sizes are very, very small. I'd repeat this step for Tier 2 issues which are resolved by a remote IT service technician. I go to my Build-A-Graphic tab, Insert Graphic, look for those keywords. I find them. I find a visual. I scroll through my visuals, and I find something that I'm happy with. I insert the graphic, modify if I need it, if at all, and then scale it and place it on the appropriate step. Tier 3 issues are resolved by an IT service mechanic. I'm going to insert graphic. I'm going to look for those keywords, in this case, mechanic. Scroll down until I find something I'm happy with. Click on it, insert it, scale it, and position as needed. Now I could do more, such as augment things like resolution of time with icons or symbols or anything that I want. So that's exactly how it works. You also have the option of using a kit of parts, which means that you have pieces and parts that you can put together to create your own visual narrative. You can do it for road graphics, for, let's say, pipe graphics. You want to show the flow of a process. Because I have these pipe pieces, I can create all these different scenarios, put my own content in there, and make something that's unique to me. And because they are vector-based, I have the ability to quickly and easily change the style as needed. So that's building your graphics from scratch. Now you also have pre-built graphics. These graphics are absolutely incredible. Some of the examples include timelines, different, unique, innovative ways to show information that would normally take hours, if not days, to create. You have them at your beck and call, and they are grist for the mill. What I mean by that is you find new ways of showing information that's going to improve engagement. And engagement is really critical in any situation. No matter whether it's learning and development, sales and marketing, it doesn't matter. I need to show people something that's unique, that's consistent with my messaging, my content, and what I want to motivate people to do. Even if your content is textually heavy, there are visual representations or ways to break it up so that it's still visually appealing. You have looping graphics and different process diagrams and temple graphics. And if you notice in some of the graphics down in the lower left corner, you'll see tips and tricks to help you do some editing, some simple or basic editing, depending upon your level of proficiency. You have complex concepts like Scrum or Agile development, showing interoperability or organization charts or step diagrams or tree growth, showing growth of an organization or a process, different ways of showing things in a very unique, innovative way, again, to keep people engaged. You also have access to our graphic cheat sheet. The way it works is every single graphic that you'll ever make would fit down the left side, meaning it would be either showing hierarchy, architecture, structure, process, or flow, and so on. Once you choose the core concept, you would pick from any graphic type in that row. So if you were trying to communicate relationships, yellow, by the way, the yellow column is a simple concept, the orange is a bit more complex, and the blue column is for quantitative information, amount, value, and time typically. So you would be able to go through and be the adjudicator, be the decision maker to decide whether you want to use a Venn or a puzzle or a funnel or a pipe, or perhaps you want to use a spiral. So what you could do is use this to figure out the best visual way to represent your content, and then simply search for that graphic type in Build a Graphic and then modify as needed. So that's a quick start. Really fast, simple way to get you up and running. Now here are some really cool tips and tricks that you can use in Build a Graphic right this second. You can quickly change styles. What do I mean by that? Well, just like I did with the laptop, let's say I want to give this a blue outline, a white fill. Suddenly I have a very different look and feel. In your graphics, you're able to break them apart to make them uniquely yours. So if I right-click on this graphic and I choose Ungroup, I'm now breaking up these graphics into bite-sized digestible pieces. Right now I have the different elements that are broken apart, but I want to further break apart this step diagram. So I'm going to click on it again. Right now it's grouped hierarchically. I'm going to ungroup again. So now what I can do is I can delete the steps that I no longer want, and I can move the elements, the callouts, so that they are, again, complementary to the new visual. Now, I want to make sure I regroup it before I scale. So, for example, if I were to select these elements and I were to scale them up right now, you'd notice that it would distort the image. The secret is that you want to regroup, so you would use the lasso function, which you simply hold down on your mouse and drag your cursor over everything, and then choose Arrange Group. So it's grouped. Hold down your Shift key. It's important that you hold down your Shift key so that you scale things proportionally. Because if I did not hold down my Shift key, it would not scale things proportionally and it would distort my image, which you may want to do. In some instances, it does make sense. In this instance, I did not want to distort my image. You can also, with these modular elements, you can flip them. So you have what's called isometric graphics. When I say isometric graphics, they are all rotated in 3 dimensions at the same angle, and they work nice together. So if you don't want your person, let's say I don't want this person to be facing this way, I would simply go to Arrange, and I would choose Rotate, and I would flip horizontal. So I can flip him the other direction. The same is true for arrows and elements and things like that. Let's say I want it facing up instead of down. So what I would choose is Arrange, Rotate, Flip, Vertical, and now I am facing the other direction. So use these flip functions with your isometric graphics to create almost anything you can imagine. Isometric graphics are wonderful for day in the life of. You also have a grid as part of your downloads, as part of your help. If you click on help, you'll see this grid. It'll help you populate and make sure that these individual elements that you have are aligning properly, because they're aligning to what's called an isometric grid. So these are tips and tricks that the pros use to create even the most complex, amazingly professional diagrams very quickly. You can see examples of what I created with the pieces that you currently have. So many different options. It is really up to your imagination, completely up to your imagination on how to do this. You can see that it ranges from simple to complex. You also have regular, standard, unique, professional, innovative graphics. And again, you'll be using these same basic functions to modify these graphics. So you can right-click on your graphic, choose ungroup the pieces, and you can remove the elements that you no longer need. Or you can add additional elements. The choice is completely up to you. Or perhaps you want to, let's say, reposition the arms of this scale. So you would simply click on it, ungroup the graphic, and again, it's grouped hierarchically, so there are subgroups. I'm going to rotate this arm slightly, click on the arrow, I'm going to rotate the arrow slightly, I'm going to reposition the pans of the scale graphic so that I'm happy with it, and then boom, I instantly have a scale graphic that is tipped in the direction that I want. The same is true for step graphics, so perhaps you don't need 7 steps. So I'm going to right click, choose group, ungroup, and I'm going to simply delete the pieces that I don't need, and then I can reposition the elements so that it's complementary to my slide wherever I'd like to position them. Again, the same is true for this graphic. I would simply ungroup it if I wanted to and delete the pieces that I no longer need, and then keep the pieces that I do. Perhaps I don't need this anymore, and then make sure you regroup them so that when scaling, things make sense. Another cool technique is, let's say I want the red side to be on the left and not the right. You would select your graphic, make sure this piece is isolated, and then I'm going to choose Arrange, Rotate, Flip Horizontal. Now notice red is now appearing on the left side versus the right. If I undo, you can see that it goes from green to red and vice versa. If I go down to this particular gauge graphic, you can select an element, and let's say it has what's called a gradient fill. Now this is a little more advanced. One of the things that I can do is I can right-click on an element and choose Format, Shape. Under Fill, if you notice, I have a gradient right down here. My gradient is here. Let's say you want to change the direction of the gradient. You want to flip it. So right now, the direction of my gradient is going to green to red. What if I'd like it to go red to green? So I would click on linear right, and now it would change the direction of my gradient. The other thing that I can do is I can simply click on the arrow, I can rotate it to where I'd like, and then change the number manually to anything that I choose. When it comes to modifying something like this particular dashboard graphic, I can rotate the element and then simply click on this element, which is a group, click within that group, and I can scale an element up or down. Again, I can rotate it down, click on the group, click within the group, and then I can modify it that way. So I can quickly change things. Same is true with these pieces. Simply hold down the Shift key, drag your mouse up or down, and it will constrain it on a horizontal or vertical axis. If I wanted to modify this, I would simply click on it, scale it to wherever I want, and now I'm able to change the numbers. So let's say I want to change this to 90%. Everything is going to be editable. Here's a very cool trick. So let's say you need to recolor a graphic like this. Well, one of the techniques that the pros use is under your Home tab, you have something called the Format Painter. The Format Painter says whatever you have selected and you click on the Format Painter one time, it will absorb the look and feel of it and allow you to apply it one time. But what happens if I want to apply it again and again? So here's the trick. So I'm going to click on the element that I want to sample, the style that I'd like to sample, and I'm going to double click the Format Painter, 1, 2. And now I can apply that style over and over and over again throughout my graphic. So I can easily change the style and color and look and feel of this graphic with very little effort. Using these same basic techniques, I can change a graphic to look like a sketch. What do I mean by that? So I'm going to make sure that I have my graphic elements only selected. So I'm going to select my graphic elements. I'm going to choose my shape outline. I'm going to choose a gray stroke or outline. Next thing I'm going to do is under shape outline, I'm going to choose sketched, and I'm going to choose this particular option, and then I'm going to choose fill white. So now I have a graphic that looks like a sketch. Now I could also change the font or the text so that it also looks handwritten. So perhaps I would use something like inking or something that is a handwritten font. So I'm going to go with ink free. So I can create these very cool graphics very simply. What about if I want to take my graphic and export it into another piece of software? I have a few options. One of the techniques that I recommend is making sure that your graphics that you build in PowerPoint are the same size that they're going to be in your final product. I say that because then you know what font sizes you have. So let's say you're working with an 8.5 by 11 Microsoft Word document. I'd want to make sure that my graphic is no wider than 8.5 by 11. So under width, I would make sure everything's selected. And also, one of the other techniques that I recommend is click on this little widget down here, and then make sure that you always lock your aspect ratio. That way, when you scale something, it won't distort it. So now I can select everything, and I can change it to 6.5 inches wide, and then it automatically scales things. And then you just go to Home, and then decrease the font size to whatever font you want it to be. So once I have my graphic at the font size I want it to be, in the dimensions it will be in the final product, I can do one of two things. I can either copy and then go to my Microsoft Word page and paste it in there. And if my graphic is simple, my text and everything will be completely editable and searchable, which is a game changer for a lot of people. Now, if the graphic is very complex, what you may want to do instead is right-click on your graphic and choose Save as Picture. So we would choose Save as Picture, and you would save this graphic as a picture and then insert that graphic into any document. There are other more advanced techniques for doing this and other tools. Reach out to me if you have any questions about some more advanced techniques for doing that. So those are tips and tricks that I use to achieve some of the really cool effects that I have. Now let's get into some of the geekier stuff, some of the stuff that the power users would want to know. So I'm going to walk you through the really cool functionality within Build a Graphic. One of the things you can do is you can choose View Library. And under View Library, you're going to see your entire library of graphics. The buttons and things of that nature are pretty self-explanatory. But just to be clear, what we would do is any one of these graphics, so let's scroll up here, let's find a graphic. Any one of these graphics has a set of keywords. All of those keywords can be modified. So at any point in time, I can select a keyword, I can delete a keyword, I can add a keyword. So I can say hello, and now every time I search for the word hello, this particular graphic is going to come up if I choose Save Changes to Keywords. I can also search for graphics here. I can delete graphics. So if I have a graphic in my library and I no longer want it, I can simply choose Delete Graphic and get rid of it forever from my library. Insert Graphic simply inserts the graphic into my slide. The other thing that you have, which is absolutely amazing, is if you choose More Graphics, it takes you to a web page. This web page has new graphics that are added to your library over time. You would simply follow the instructions at the very top of the page, which tells you to do exactly what we're doing now. So if I wanted to add the Kanban graphic to my library or something like that, I would click download, and then I would save that graphic to my local desktop. Save it wherever I want to save it. Once you do that, once you've saved it, you would go to Add to Library or Add to Library button. When I choose Add to Library, I would navigate to whatever graphic I downloaded, and I click OK, and it automatically adds those graphics to my library plus the keywords. Any new graphic that you add is found under the View Library button, and if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see the newest graphic that I just added. In this case, I added smartphone user interface graphics. So I just added that to my collection. Again, I could delete it if I want to. One of the other things you can do, if you so choose, you can create your own content and then click on Add to Library and add your own content. The secret is that you would put your keywords in the notes field. Don't use commas, but you can use quote marks. So for example, this might be view, views, viewable, or I want to say this is my view library. So if you notice, I now have, if I were to add this one graphic to my, if I were to add this one slide to my library, it would use these keywords and instantly populate it that way. That is how that geeky awesome function works. That is, in a nutshell, everything that you need to know to get better and better at Build a Graphic at any point in time. You have more questions, do not hesitate to reach out. If you believe that visual communication is very helpful in all that you do, please share it. Be a champion for the change that you want to see. Tell your friends and your colleagues, put it on social media. Greatly appreciated, and you are being the advocate for the best practices that you want to see the rest of the world using. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Build a Graphic is here to help you become more successful at what you do, and hopefully you'll help other people do the same thing.